Thanks for joining me today, friends. We are going to be creating an awesome printmaking project together. Now, this project uses things you probably already have around your house. I'm going to show you how to create a radial design that's more non-representational with lines and shapes. And then the second project we'll do together is a print that is more representational, pictures and objects, something that we recognize, like in this case, an animal, a parrot. So let's go ahead and get started. So here are the supplies you need. Some sort of flat, clean styrofoam bowl. You can also do it with a styrofoam plate or a tray. And you can just cut off the edges and cut that styrofoam to be the size that you want. You also need some paper that's large enough to fit your prints. And for this, it's best if you have a cardstock or drawing paper, something that's a little bit thicker than just plain copy paper. Grab some scissors, and you'll also need something to apply the water to your paper. So that might be a spray bottle, a paintbrush with a cup of clear water, or a clean sponge that has been soaked in water and then squeezed out. And lastly, you need some colored markers, and those markers really need to be washable. So if you're not sure if your markers are washable, here's a quick way to test that. Take one of your markers, draw a bit on a scrap paper, and then apply some water, and if that color bleeds, then you know that your markers are washable and they will work perfectly for this project. Let's start by preparing our foam. So like I said, I'm using a styrofoam bowl. You can use a plate or tray, and all we're going to do is cut out this flat inner circle. Now we're ready to create our design on the styrofoam. And there's one more supply I forgot to mention. You need a pencil. You really want something that's a little bit duller. You just want it to indent the foam a good amount without cutting through the styrofoam. So here I'm going to find the center of my circle and go ahead and create a radial design. You can create whatever design you want, but since I'm working on a circle, I want a design that's radial, that's symmetrical, kind of all the way around. Now we're ready to add the color to our foam printing plate, and we're going to color directly on to this foam. So I'm sticking with cool colors, but you can use whatever you want. And even if you don't have a ton of markers, you can easily blend colors one on top of the other to create new colors, much like we do with paint. And when we go ahead to print, those colors are going to blend together. So here I am doing some darker blue with lighter blue in the middle where it blends together. So now you're ready to print, and watch those beautiful colors transfer from the foam plate onto your white paper. Just lightly coat the top of your paper with water. And I'm going to use my brush to just move that water around a bit. Take my foam printing plate, turn it upside down, and centered on my paper here, press it down, and then I want to rub that to get the transfer, but I'm going to put a piece of copy paper over first, just so it's easier and less messy to rub. So I'm using flat fingers and going in small circle movements over the whole foam plate, keeping that steady. Take off the copy paper carefully peel off your foam plate and you have a beautiful print. Now, you might find that maybe you didn't use quite enough water, like over here, or maybe not enough pressure when you were rubbing to transfer the print, or maybe you used too much water and the colors all bled. So you can do this over and over again until you get it just the way you want it. So at this point, I could rinse this off and start again, rinse and dry, or I could just take my markers and continue coloring on top of these colors that are still left on the foam and go ahead and pull a second print from that. So I want to show you one other type of print. Here I'm going to work with a rectangle piece and create something that's more representational. I think I'm going to choose an animal. So you might want to do a practice sketch beforehand rather than pressing directly onto your foam for this one. So I'm going to cut a piece of paper that is the same size as my foam. And now on this paper, I'm going to go ahead and draw my animal and then transfer it onto the foam. So I used a reference image to draw a simple outline of a parrot, and I'm going to take that paper, lay it right on top of my flat piece of foam. Try to make sure it doesn't move as you do this step. And we're just going to go through and press right over each line that we did in our simple pencil drawing, so that it is going through the paper, not necessarily cutting the paper, but pressing through onto the foam and indenting the foam. And then we'll remove that paper, and it's going to be hard to see the lines. They won't be indented very, very much, so you want to go through one more time, and you should be able to see those if you get closer. And you just want to press over those lines one more time just to make sure it's indented enough so you'll get a nice crisp print. And now at this point you can start getting in a little bit of texture, whether it's feathers or fins or fur, whatever sort of texture your animal has. It's going to make your print much more interesting if it's not all just one big flat piece of foam. For your background, you can really color whatever you want. I just want to create a little bit more texture so it's not flat. So I'm going to go ahead and put some vertical lines. And now the same process as we did with our radial design. Grab some markers and go ahead and color right onto your foam plate. All right, it's time to print. Grab your brush, sponge, spray bottle, apply some water, take my printing plate, turn it upside down, place it carefully on the paper, and once it's there, you don't want to move it. Scrap paper goes on top, flat fingers, small circle movements, going to each corner, all around the edges. All right. And pulling back from one side, and there is your print. So if you want to create another print, again, clean it off and dry it, or with that little bit of extra marker that's still on there, just add some more marker on top and you can quickly go ahead and do another print. So if we look back at the 2 prints we made, you can see that the parts that we indented, that we pressed in with our pencil, those parts have stayed white. And the parts that we applied color to, the flat parts, that's where we get our transferred print. Well, how fun was that? Nice job, you guys. One of the awesome things about printmaking is once you have this foam plate, you can use it over and over again. So go ahead and use those foam printing plates that you created to create a whole bunch more prints. And then from there, you can hang these on the wall or frame them or even give them as cards. I would love to see what you've created, what you end up doing with these prints. Feel free to send them to me or share them on JA's social media. I hope you have a happy summer, you guys, and keep creating.